for a ride?
Sure, Ken.
Jump in.
Hello name nerds, my name is Patrick and welcome to Fun with First Names, where each week we look into the meaning, origin and some extra fun facts behind one specific first name. And this week we are looking into the first name of Kenneth. But before we begin, I want to say a huge thank you to everyone who's become a patron in the most recent weeks. That's a huge thank you to one, Rochelle, Barry Carr and Nicola Hargreaves. Thank you guys all so much for supporting Name Explain on Patreon. Patreon is the single best way to help support Name Explain. The channel needs your support now more than ever. If you enjoy Name Explain in its current state, that's only possible with people like you donating on Patreon. So if you enjoy the channel, want to help support it, and have a say in what names get explained, consider supporting on Patreon. You get ad-free videos, exclusive content, and a chance to have a say what names get explained and what names and words and language gets covered in all of these videos, or minus the Friday ones, I suppose. That's all down to you guys, and all of that can be yours for just $1 a month. I think that's a pretty good way to spend $1, if you ask me. I think I don't know how much you can get for $1 these days, or less than £1, or whatever one single unit of your currency is in your part of the world, but I don't think it's much, but it can still get you some fun times on Name Explain's Patreon. If you want to, patreon.com/Name Explain. There'll be a link down below. Thank you to everyone who has already become a patron. I super appreciate it. But anyway, on with today's name of Kenneth. And when you hear the name Kenneth, you might not think of it as being a particularly sexy or attractive name. Huge apologies to anyone called Kenneth watching this video. It really doesn't have that sort of connotation. When I think of the name Kenneth, I think of Kenneth from 30 Rock, who is like the least sexual character in perhaps any sitcom ever. He's a very asexual little being, or maybe that changes. I never finished 30 Rock. Don't spoil it for me or anyone else down below. But yeah, Kenneth, he's a special character. He's really funny, but just very unique, very unsexual. Go watch 30 Rock, it's good fun. But then I got thinking about some other sexy Kenneths, and one came to mind particular. There's one specifically very sexual and attractive and handsome Kenneth. That being Ken, as in like Barbie's Ken. Not that I'm into little plastic toys of men, but come on, Ken was literally built, designed to be attractive. He was built to be a stud, to replicate a male form of Barbie's traditional attractiveness. I mean, they've even got Ryan Gosling playing him in the upcoming Barbie film, for crying out loud. Like, he's a very handsome character, so he's living up to this name. Also, fun fact, his full name is Kenneth. It's specifically Kenneth Sean Carson. Don't know if you needed to know that, but now you do. And I think Barbie's full name, if memory serves, Barbara Millicent Roberts. That's some good pub trivia for you there. If it ever comes up, what is Barbie's full name? You know it now. Thanks to me. Give me a cut of your earnings. Give me a cut of the winnings if you win that quiz. So Ken from Barbie kind of proves to us that Kenneth can be a handsome name. And the reason I think Kenneth is the most handsome name is simply because of its meaning. What's interesting is that Kenneth is actually the anglicisation of two different Irish names. Both of these two Irish names ended up being anglicised, which means turned into the British English form, into Kenneth. And guess who's going to try and pronounce those Irish names now? So huge apologies on this one. I have checked pronunciation. I found some bits and bobs saying how to pronounce these names and Irish names in general. Huge apologies if I messed these up. Please let me know if I haven't said them well, how they should really be said if you're an Irish speaker or just know how to say these names. They are Kinnaid and Conech. Kinnaid and Conech, I believe, and we'll have them up on the screen for you guys to see there. Huge apologies, I believe that's how to pronounce them. Sorry if I got it wrong. Like I said, I do check these things. I'm just a terrible person anyway, but I do check. Get a lot of comments about pronunciation if you didn't know, because I can't imagine why. Anyway, the first of those Irish names, Kinnaid, that's how we're pronouncing it anyway, that comes from old Irish words meaning born and fire. So this name, what turned to Kenneth, means born from fire, and that's a super badass meaning. Imagine like being born from the flames. It's very Game of Thrones, or Star Wars comes to mind. Darth Vader comes to mind. He was born from fire.
You were the chosen one! I hate you!
But not in the best way possible. That comes to mind if you enjoy your prequel Star Wars for some strange reason. And while it's cool, it's not particularly handsome, I suppose, is it? It's that other Gaelic name of Conech, once again, huge apologies about pronunciation, which I find more interesting and relates more to this name's handsomeness, as this Irish name of Conech literally means handsome. It just means handsome. Yeah, this name, I presume it would have begun as a by name or last name for someone who was particularly handsome. Yeah, this name literally just means handsome, if you hadn't guessed by now. This is why I see Kenneth as being the most handsome name. While it might not have the connotation of hunkiness, these days its literal meaning is handsome. You can't top that. Though what I find most interesting is that there's a very similar sounding name to Kenneth that has the complete opposite meaning. That being the name Kennedy. So Kennedy is obviously an Irish surname as opposed to a first name, but you cannot deny that the names Kennedy and Kenneth sound extremely similar. And yeah, despite sounding so similar, these names have completely different meanings. While Kenneth means handsome, Kennedy means ugly head. Like Amber, you can get a good picture of a big ugly head on screen right now to demonstrate. Like, think of a great example of like the ugliest head you've ever seen. Just like, boom, put it on the screen right now. That's a good ugly head, that. But it can also mean armoured head or misshapen head, supposedly. But the most popular theory and idea of what the name Kennedy means is ugly head. And that's completely against the idea of Kenneth meaning handsome, like they're polar opposites. So why does Kennedy have this meaning of ugly head as opposed to anything like handsome? Well, it's because it comes from a completely different Gaelic Irish name. That being, once again, huge volume of pronunciation. I've literally got the Forvo page opened up on my little reading phone. Kenseg, I believe is how this one's pronounced. Kenseg. Let me know if I'm saying it wrong down in the comments below. But yes, it was this Irish name that meant ugly head or armoured head, probably because, once again, the person who originally bore this name wasn't the most attractive looking. Sorry, by the way, names can be mean sometimes. And then it became anglicised into Kennedy because probably dumb English people thought, I can't be bothered to actually pronounce that properly, so I'm just going to say Kennedy. Even though we've already got two other names we've anglicised that sound like Kenneth, we're just going to roll with it. Seems that the English language and people who speak it natively have forever butchered pronunciation. It's not just me. Some things never change. Kenneth is the 258th most popular boy's name in the USA. I was amazed to read that. That's much, much higher than I thought it was going to be. Yeah, Kenneth's doing its thing over stateside. In the UK, however, it's the 939th most popular boy's name, so far less popular here than it is in the USA. That's fascinating to hear. Famous Kenneths and Kennys, I ought to say, not including the two I've just mentioned, include, of course, Kenneth Branagh. Now, he is Irish himself. He's Northern Irish, I believe. Sorry if I'm getting that wrong. He's definitely Irish. He is a filmmaker, actor. He directed the first 4 films. He's directed 2 recent Agatha Christie Poirot films. And he's also, of course, I've forgotten his name from Harry Potter. Who's he in Harry Potter? Year 2, Defense Against the Dark Arts. Gilderoy Lockhart. We got there in the end. He's Gilderoy Lockhart in the Harry Potter film. So you probably know him and you probably watched some of his films. There's also Kenny Rogers, who I believe is a country singer. Or am I making that up? It just sounds like a country singer name. I'm going to say he's a country singer. There's got to be someone out there called Kenny Rogers who's a country singer. And of course, in regards to one more fictional Kenny, or Kenneth, I would say, or Kenny in this case, we have Kenny from South Park. If you're a kid of the 90s, you remember, like, Kenny's peak popularity. I'm not going to say the thing because it's been said to death, but he's the one who dies. He's in the hood. You see his little face in the film. It's very lovely. But anyway, that's just about everything you need to know about the name Kenneth. But what are your thoughts on this name? Do you like it? Do you dislike it? Do you know anyone with the name Kenneth? Are you called Kenneth yourself? Let me know down in the comments below. And of course, I just want to share some of the thoughts you guys had on last week's name of Trevor. Bert and Ernie said, I've never associated the name Trevor with rednecks, but rather skaters, stoners, etc. I live in Louisiana now, but used to live in California, and I've met far more Trevors in California than I have since I've lived in Louisiana. Also, in the USA, we have this connotation that the Welsh are the rednecks of the UK. So a couple things to mention there. That's really interesting. Clearly, like, a lot of you said that you didn't associate the name Trevor with rednecks and associate with all given people, like posh English people. That's fascinating. We have different connotations about these names, clearly. I still hold my case. I thought Trevor was quite a redneck name. That isn't the case, clearly, but fascinating to hear your thoughts. And in regards to the Welsh being the rednecks of the UK, that's really not the case. Obviously, the Welsh aren't one. They don't all, like, there's not one specific kind of way the Welsh live. There's Welsh cities. Granted, well, Wales does have a lot more rural areas, which I guess could be associated with rednecks. I don't think that's really the case. I think there are other people in the UK as a whole, not from one specific nation in the UK who could be deemed sort of the UK redneck. But I don't really want to talk about that. There's sort of words we use with those people, and they're kind of derogatory towards the working class. I'm not really here for that. But no, considering the Welsh, the rednecks of the UK, probably not exactly. I kind of get where it's coming from, but still, apologies if you're Welsh watching this. Blame Bert and Ernie. That was just his suggestion. I'm just regurgitating it. Let's move on. Tootsie Frascale, great name, sorry if I'm mispronouncing it, said, I have a good family friend called Trevor and he's a great handyman. That's the only association I have with that name. That is so good to hear. Like, get yourself a handyman. To me, we moved about a year ago to a different part of the country and we know no one here. So we haven't got like an on-call handy person. Get yourself one. Find someone who's good at the job and just make a good connection there. Keep them sweet so they keep coming back to fix stuff for you, because if you don't have connections, just that's good. I'm glad your handyman's called Trevor. I dropped my phone. Let's move on. And Joe HD said, there was a character called Trevor who I found incredibly disgusting as a kid. Not looks rather than actions. So that connotation still kind of sticks because all I can think of is that character. That is so interesting. Sort of names, we can't end up linking names deeply with one specific person, whether that be real or not. But I wonder who this Trevor is. I'm trying to think of fictional characters called Trevor who would have disgusted you as a kid. I guess like actually GTA 6 has been out, 5, not 6, that's not, yeah. GTA 5 has been out for so long now. And Trevor's pretty gross in that. Because it's been out for almost 10 years, so like someone who was 5 is 15 now when GTA, oh my god, that's ridiculous. It could be that Trevor, but I highlighted this question because I forgot, a couple of weeks back, we talked about the name Jeremy, and I forgot to mention one Jeremy who terrified me as a child. Does anyone remember Hairy Jeremy? That was a bizarre, it was like this caveman, and he had this like big fuzzy head, and his eyes would pop out of the head every now and then. It really freaked me out as a kid. And that comment reminded me of that, and I was annoyed that I didn't mention Hairy Jeremy in my Jeremy video. I feel like I let myself down. I haven't overcome this fear. If you go watch it now, it's terrifying. Like, really freaky stuff. But I need to share it with you all. Like, there's some weird stuff in the 90s and 80s, and there's probably some weird stuff out there now, but we're getting through it. We're all just having really scarring childhoods and figuring it out. We got this. Go suggest some names down in the comments below and I'll pick 3 of those to be put into a poll exclusively for my patrons to vote on, and then the winning name from that poll will be the name covered in the next Fun with First Names video. So if you enjoyed the channel, want to help support it and have a say in what names I've explained, you guys know what I'm going to say. Go to patreon.com/nameexplain. There'll be a link down below. As I said guys, $1 a month is all it takes, and it's all I really ask of anyone. Donating $1 is like amazing. Like donating any more than that is even more incredible, but I don't expect people to donate any more than $1. I think that's more than enough. Like for what you get out of it, I think that's pretty worth it, and it just helps the channel in a huge way. Ad revenue on YouTube isn't what it once used to be due to just the whole general situation of the world, so I'm depending on Patreon more now than ever. So if you can, patreon.com/nameexplain, link down below. Thank you very much if you choose to, and thank you to everyone who is currently a patron. You mean the world to me. But anyway, that's more than enough for myself. Don't forget to go follow me on Instagram where I'm NameExplainYT, and don't forget to go join the Facebook group Friends of Name Explain, where you can chat with myself and many other name nerds about words, about names, about language in general. Some really fun people on there. Seriously, go check it out. It's a nice little community we've got going on there. That's enough from me. Okay guys, take care. Let's go on with this. Kenneth. Other sexy Ken sound extremely similar. Let me say that last bit again. Well, that's because there's completely different. Well, hold on. I've actually said what this means. Go suggest some comment. We're done. I'm gonna stop recording now.